the way money moves, the way human beings interact with money, it's changing. And I think we all realize that, but it's becoming so complex with the overlay of the technology advances that just to stay abreast of it, you have to be learning it on a daily, weekly, monthly basis.
Welcome back to 701 Chain. I'm Michael Lehn with my co-host Devon Smith. Today we're switching things up with a special round of fact or fiction featuring our president and CEO, Don Morgan. We'll throw out a few statements, break down what's true, what's not, and have some fun along the way. Let's get started.
Before we jump into the game, we brought Don on to help clear the air on what BND has been up to lately. We figured instead of a long state of BND approach, we would take a different approach and break down fact or fiction style. So let's sort out what's true, what's not, and what might surprise you. So for these, Don, one-word answers, all right?
Okay.
Number one, our stablecoin will be competing with North Dakota financial institutions and will generate a large return for Bank of North Dakota.
Fiction.
BND is rebranding and going all in on fintech.
Fiction.
Bank of North Dakota is leaning into our founding mission by creating and implementing Roughrider stablecoin.
Fact.
Education continues to play an important role at Bank of North Dakota, knowing that when our financial institutions are stronger, Bank of North Dakota is stronger.
Fact.
Bank of North Dakota's partnership with Fiserv to build Roughrider Coin is meant to encourage other financial institutions to become Fiserv banks.
Fiction.
The benefits of Roughrider Coin will only impact larger financial institutions in a positive way.
Fiction.
Legislative programs that benefit the state of North Dakota continue to be a large part of what BND does.
Fact.
Roughrider is a speculative asset. Institutions should only buy it if they want to diversify their investment portfolio.
Fiction.
So that's our 8 fact or fictions that we came up with just to really dispel anything that might be out there that's not true. So we'll kind of do a bit of a deeper dive on some of the facts to start off with, and then we'll go into more of the funny fictitious ones. So the first fact was Bank of North Dakota is leaning into our founding mission by creating and implementing Roughrider Coin. If you want to just build on that fact.
Absolutely. I came into be CEO, 2 years ago. First thing I did was read the founding documents. I've still got them in my safe. I read them frequently because when you lead an organization, you've got to look at what the history is, what's its main purpose, and then you fulfill on that. And so when I read the founding documents, they point out our mission, the simple mission that everybody knows: promote North Dakota agriculture, commerce, and industry. But it also goes on to say, not only are we not to compete with our financial institution partners, but we're to cooperate with them, coordinate in all parts the health and resiliency of the financial services of the state. That's a powerful set of statements. And it recognizes that it's not just BND, it's BND plus all the financial institutions in the state. That's the unique model that North Dakota has. And so if you come in and you read that founding mission and then you look at that model, you have to look at, okay, what opportunities does it have? What threats is it under? How healthy is it? What direction is it going? And when I look at the unique North Dakota banking model, us and 91 financial institutions, there's some pretty serious threats coming its way. The deposit disintermediation facing the community banking industry and the credit union industry in North Dakota is severe, and it's already happening. I believe it's going to be more severe going forward. So when you couple that mission and me coming in as a new leader and taking that very seriously, and you couple all that with then protecting that North Dakota unique model moving forward, well, then we have to do something about that threat for the whole industry. And that's a big part of the evolution that we're doing. And that's why we're looking at education. That's why we're looking at things like Roughrider Coin. That's why we're looking at other things in the area to try to help the whole industry, the whole of the unique North Dakota banking model, to face this threat head on and take advantage of the opportunities that it also presents. Because with every threat, there's opportunities as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don, you've talked a lot about our mission, so let's talk about this other fact that education continues to play an important role at Bank of North Dakota.
It's huge.
You want to talk about a few of the events that we're hosting to continue that education journey?
Yeah, and what we realized, kind of the why too, if I can just start there, why is education so important? Because the evolution occurring in financial services is getting so complex, so broad. The way money moves, the way human beings interact with money, it's changing. And I think we all realize that, but it's becoming so complex with the overlay of the technology advances that just to stay abreast of it, you have to be learning it on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And so when we look at, again, back to the mission of protecting that unique North Dakota banking model, education is probably the most important part that we're doing. Education of our bank and credit union partners, education of ourselves, education of our banking associations and credit union associations in the state. So we've stood up B3, we've stood up this podcast, we've done direct line calls, and plus we're out meeting one-on-one. You guys have been out meeting one-on-one. I'm out meeting one-on-one. Other folks are meeting one-on-one on a continual basis with our financial institution partners, uh, so that they can be more in the know on what's going on, understand the terminology better, and then they can go back to their bank or their credit union and they can have a better strategic conversation for themselves. They may choose to do nothing with it, but they will be more armed with the information that they need to better address that for what fits their model the best. So for me, I'm most excited about the education piece of what we're doing. All of the parts are exciting and they're powerful and they're great moves that we're making, but the education piece is incredibly special.
You touched on B3 a little bit. You just want
Mhm.
to maybe elaborate a little bit more on what B3 is?
So B3 is a spring fall and it recurs every year. And that's important. The first part of it's recurring. It's not a one and done because you can't learn this space. It changes too much. It's too complex. You can't just jump in and say, oh, I've got it and jump out. You have to stay with it. And so it's recurring every spring and fall and it's cohort based. We wanted our financial institution partners to come in and be comfortable and develop relationships in a cohort of institutions similar to them. And so that every time they come in the spring, every time they come in the fall, spring next year, fall next year, they've built that same peer group in this space. So they're learning together.
Right.
We chose to group it by asset size. And I think based on the first one in Fargo, that worked brilliantly. And then third piece is we wanted the best expertise coming in that is hard to find and unique. And I think with our first one, we had the former head of the OCC, we had the American Bankers Association national fintech expert, we had the CEO of Fireblocks. So we had these big time experts come in, and based on the feedback, I think it was a roaring success. And then we've got the next one coming up in Medora in October, and yeah, we're super excited about these B3s and the feedback on them from the banking partners. I was just at the NDBA SDBA joint annual convention. The feedback we got on the education series, on what we're doing with Roughrider Coin, on what we're doing on other programs like Farm Financial Stability, it tells me we're on the right path.
Yeah, you mentioned farm financial stability. Legislative programs are always going to be a part of what Bank of North Dakota does just
Yeah.
because of our model. We're a state-owned bank. Do you want to just expound upon that a little bit with our relationship with the legislature and the state government?
Absolutely. It's all of our existing verticals. And the legislative programs are a critical vertical. The disaster programs are a critical vertical. Student loans are critical. Our participation lending with the 91 financial institutions, critical. All of our mission-based stuff. It's truly the evolution occurring. The evolution is occurring and the threat and the opportunity to the North Dakota unique banking model, which is our financial institution partners, but it's also us. So we have to educate ourselves. We have to evolve ourselves as well, not to move away from fulfilling on our verticals, but to be able to fulfill on them and to continue fulfillment on them. If the unique North Dakota banking model that we have, if it truly disintermediates the funding mechanisms behind it that allow it to work, all of a sudden we can't perform those verticals like we used to. We can't do disaster programs. We won't have the banks and credit unions to partner with us to do them. We won't have the joint funding to do them. So this is also a protection of the verticals like the legislative programs. That's the evolution we're going through, is so that we can continue to fulfill on the mission.
One of the first fictions that we had was that our stablecoin is out there to compete directly with North Dakota financial institutions and make us a ton of money.
No. Couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, it's the exact opposite of that. Ours is not available for sale. It makes no sense for us to develop a coin that's available for sale. It's not a store of value. It's not an investment opportunity. We have no plans to offer it to the public in any way, shape, or form. It's the exact opposite. As others start to develop stable coins, Circle Tether, Wyoming Frontier Coin, they're offering those to the public. And that's a direct competitive product to community banks and credit unions. Well, back to our mission, if we only exist and work because of our century-long partnership with all of our community banks and credit unions in the state, and all of a sudden they have competing products, what's being done in our model to prepare to compete against those products? And that's what we're doing. So we're on the complete opposite side of it. We're working on the new payment rail for banking so that banking can benefit from it today, but also prepare for the long term and compete against things like Frontier Coin, Circle Tether, other stable coins that are going to be offered to the public that are going to be competing financial products or are already competing financial products.
The next one would be that Bank of North Dakota is rebranding and going all in on fintech and kind of shoving aside and not paying any attention to the other correspondent services.
Yeah, again, and I face this quite a bit. It couldn't be further from the truth. It's truly a if this threat and opportunity is there, and you do nothing, and then you diminish, the model shrinks, the model diminishes. How healthy is that for our financial institution? How healthy is that for BND? So again, it's the exact opposite of that. What we're doing it to strengthen the model, and we're doing it to be there in the future, and we're doing it to continue to offer the verticals and the products and the partnerships and relationships that we have. So it's truly a protection strategy. It's not a competition strategy, and it's not. In order to figure out fintech, you've got to educate yourself. You got to eat, live, and breathe it. You got to learn it. You got to know it, and you got to pick your right spots, which means you have to know yourself. We know ourselves. We know our 107-year history. We know our mission. We know our model. We know what has worked. We've proven what works. We're not moving away from that to dive into fintech. We're really diving into fintech to protect the model, is what we're doing. So we're going into fintech with a very specific purpose, a very specific strategic use case, and that is to protect the unique North Dakota banking model, which there is no other like it. And many other states would kill to have the model that we have. They've said so. I've been out to speak to them. So it's truly a protect the North Dakota bank model. We have no intention to move away from our existing verticals. Again, back to it's to protect them.
Right. No, absolutely. Another kind of one of the fiction / myths is the relationship with Fiserv, right? This is only going to be for other Fiserv banks. Do you want to touch on maybe how that's definitely a fiction?
No, again, in our unique banking model, all of our financial institution partners have different cores.
Right.
We don't care what core they have. In fact, we were adamant with Fiserv that it has to be core agnostic because it would make no sense. It would make no strategic sense to try to move our financial institutions to a certain core provider. That just is so far out of our mission. I can't even imagine why we would even consider that.
Right.
So,
Right.
we chose Fiserv, one, because in this space, you have to choose partners that you know, you trust, and you believe are going to invest the money, the time, the expertise, and they're going to stay hooked with it long term in this space. Again, because it's complex, it's changing, it's difficult to understand. And what you understand today is not what you're going to understand next year. We think we found that partner in Fiserv. They were our core provider for the last several decades. So we've had a long-term relationship with them. They're one of I call them the big three in community banking. And that is, Fiserv, FIS, Jack Henry. And there are others. I know there are other great ones. Those are kind of the big three that I've always been around. And each one has their pros and cons. Each one has a love-hate relationship from every community bank and credit union partner they're involved with. We think we found a good one in Fiserv because they have checked the boxes in terms of we know them. They're investing the money. They're serious about it. They're playing ball with us in this. They're excited about it. This is not a flash in the pan. And you could make that argument about FIS and Jack Henry and the others. We chose this partner because that's how we got comfortable with them.
Sure.
But no, it's going to be core agnostic, and That's absolutely a non-negotiable for us. And we are not moving into this trying to make money on the backs of our financial institutions. We're trying to protect the model by modernizing the payment rail and then using that as a jumping off point to prepare our model to compete in the future and be relevant. It's simply that. It's nothing else than that.
Oh, absolutely.
The next one is the benefits of Roughrider Coin will mainly be felt or supported, and the benefits would essentially roll down to only the large financial institutions. I think that is one of the many that is one of the furthest from the truths of, because there's a lot of our smaller financial institutions, right, that can utilize Roughrider Coin to, to have that extra tool in their back pocket.
Yeah. I think, again, it's the exact opposite. I think the smaller institutions are going to benefit more. And I don't look at it as just Roughrider Coin. I look at it as the combined education, expertise, partnership. Yes, Roughrider Coin happens to be the use case now, but there are going to be other use cases always measured against, does it have the highest and best use at a macro level for the unique North Dakota banking model, us and then financial institutions? If you look at the larger financial institutions, and we see this, we see FIBT, we see Choice, we see Bell, we see, you know, they're already investing significant resources in understanding fintech, and some have made moves and all the things. Your smaller institutions, they don't have that large of a resource base to make some of that investment on their own. So I think where the higher benefit is in the education in Roughrider Coin is for the smaller institutions, because we're making a lot of that resource investment that they don't have to make. They don't have to hire the expertise. We'll hire it. You can partner with us. If you hire it, great, good for you. We'll join up and we'll learn from each other. I truly believe it is the smaller institutions that'll benefit the most. Absolutely.
No, I completely agree, especially when you look at some of those small institutions that are in, towns of 400 or 500 people where they don't necessarily have the ability to go out and hire somebody that can be dedicated to this fintech space, or even just fill some of their back office roles. We've looked at so many things with whether it's Roughrider Coin and smart contracts, or it's AI implementation. A lot of these things that you used to need to have a staff of 7 or 8 people, maybe now you can scale it down to 6, or you can have 7 and 8, and you can redeploy those human resources into other more profit generating avenues.
I ran a bank in Linton for many years earlier on in my career. I understand in the smaller institutions, you're a generalist. I mean, you might be the president, but you're also probably doing some loan op stuff and maybe underwriting, and you have to be a generalist just because that's what your operating model can afford. And if you can remove some of the burden of some of those generalist activities without having to make that investment on their own, I think that's a huge benefit to smaller institutions. I really do. And there's going to be a benefit to larger institutions too, if nothing else than just the partnership of BND and them putting our heads together, sharing our strategies, moving forward, finding the right partnerships, picking our right strategic spots. It's going to benefit the whole model. There's no doubt in my mind that it will.
All right, everything scales. Kind of the last fiction that we have on here is that Roughrider is a speculative asset. This is institutions want to buy it if they want to diversify their investment portfolio.
No, again, not for sale, not a store of value, not an asset for sale. It's simply the mechanism that is going to transact on the new blockchain-enabled payment rail that we're building with Fiserv specifically for banking within a controlled digital wallet atmosphere that we and the unique North Dakota banking model control. That's what it is. It's simply the exchange mechanism. It can take the form of a token, a coin, whatever works best for the use case, and whatever serves the effectiveness of that underlying modernized payment rail for financial institutions. That's simply what it is. It is nothing else than that. And I don't see, looking ahead, any strategic use case that would make sense that would say, hey, it's time to form this as a separate speculative investment offering and then roll it out to the public and compete against our financial institutions for their deposits. It would be Peter robbing Paul to pay Joe. It makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Right.
It just doesn't make any sense. So what could make sense down the road is our financial institutions want to offer some form of stable coin, stable token deposit account to attract deposit accounts for themselves. This could evolve to that, but that'll be driven by our financial institution partners, not us.
Right. We've talked a lot about how this phase one of stablecoin, of Roughrider Coin would be the only phase that we would be more proactive than reactive, with a potential phases, if it's a phase 2, phase 3, being more reactive, because we're gonna be listening to our FIs on exactly what they want. Right.
That's a great frame of reference. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way. When you say it like that, that's a great frame of reference. And I think that's absolutely true.
Well, Don, again, we really, really appreciate your time. And we're taking the opportunity here to take a very unique hybrid approach to kind of bring the state of Bank of North Dakota to our audience. And obviously, since we have you on, is there any other comments or, points that you want to kind of get out and share to our audience while we have you?
I think my last point would be I'm excited about where we're at. Um, I'm excited about fully understanding the uniqueness of the model that we have and the beauty of it and the power of it and the value of it. And when you fully understand that and you incorporate that into your very being, which I have, and take responsibility for that, well, then you have to do these things. Because to not do these things and to see it under the threat that it is and the threat that is expected, that would be failing the mission of North Dakota. And we're not going to fail the mission. So we're going to continue to lean into this. It's going to be for the benefit of the unique model. And we're going to continue to learn and grow our expertise and partner with our financial institutions, because that's the recipe for success that has served us well for 107 years. And it's the recipe that's going to serve us well for the next 107 years.
Absolutely.
I plan to be here for that whole time, by the way.
I believe
Hope you guys do too. You guys probably have a better chance than I do. So.
For sure.
Well, that's our time. Thank you so much
Thank
again,
you.
Don.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you having you on.
Excellent. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of 701 Chain. A big thank you to Don for joining us today. Be sure to like and subscribe to our podcast.
This recording is for informational purposes only. It does not constitute legal, financial, or investment advice.
The views expressed are those of the hosts and guests and do not represent any organization, including Bank of North Dakota. Please seek professional guidance before making financial decisions.